now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to your RBLR Rays podcast. I'm Ben here, and with me is Zack. He's back this week. How's it going, Zack?
Oh, it is going fantastic, man. It's good to be back. I missed last week, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you back, definitely. So I know we talked about like our off-season award preview stuff, last week. So this week, we don't really have the awards yet. We'll have those, I believe, next week. They're going to happen, sometime during the week. And so we're just going to kind of go over the World Series here. We can talk about that a bit and go over the Rays season and kind of preview what we would personally like to see out of the off-season, moves that are going to be made soon. So I guess we'll get into that. So with the World Series, are you happy with the Braves win? That was pretty cool.
Oh, I am ecstatic, mainly because the Astros lost.
Right.
But it was nice to see a new team win. I know the last couple of years has been the same teams in and out, aside from, the Rays were in it last year, which was nice. But it's been a lot of the same. You got the Giants, you got the Dodgers, you got the Astros. Last time the Braves won was the year I was born. So it's nice to see that.
Yeah, it's good to mix it up. I wouldn't have a problem if the Rays were like in the World Series every single year. I wouldn't really want any mixing up to happen then, but yeah, it's good for the Braves. And they have a couple former Rays on that team, so it's cool for them, like Charlie Morton, Travis d'Arnaud. I think that's it. I think it's just those two.
Yeah, I believe that's it, but I will say Charlie Morton is a man.
Yeah, that was crazy.
To throw 16 pitches after breaking your leg, that's
just
insane.
Unreal. It reminds me of when Kobe tore his Achilles or whatever, and he still took his free throws. That's pretty tough. Like if I have a headache from my allergies, I'm I'm incapacitated for a little while. But no, that's just toughness. Like they just wanted it more, really, because they had to overcome so much this season with injuries and some off the field stuff, whatever. But they turned it around and they got hot at the right time. So. Pretty interesting. Pretty cool.
That was one of those things that, like you said, they hit every bump and everything they could have hit. I mean, they signed Marcell Ozuna to fill in a big spot in that outfield, and then he gets hit with the DA case. So it's just one of those things where, including all the injuries and the trade deadline, I think saved their whole season.
Yeah, they really. At about the halfway point, like you said, they kind of turned it around. I read that they were one of the teams that shifted the least in all of baseball, the first half of the season, and then they started shifting in the infield more than any other team, and then they started winning a lot of games, which they're not winning because they're shifting, they're winning because they're a good team, but they started doing all the little things right, and it really added up and culminated in a pretty impressive postseason run. So good for them.
Yeah, no, it was one of the more interesting outcomes that I would have imagined this postseason, especially with all the teams that were coming out of that division, for it to be the Braves to basically beat the Astros into the ground was not one of the things that I would have pictured happening.
No, that wasn't on my MLB bingo card for this season. So, good for them, though. I mean, the rest of the division, that NL East was, pretty up and down. Nobody was really running away with it. So for the Braves to win that division that wasn't super strong, and then also beat the best team from the American League was, they didn't beat the Rays, but technically the Astros, I guess, were the best team. So whatever. But I don't know. It was a really impressive run, and it's just I'm not mad about them winning. I'm fine with the Braves winning it.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can both, as long as it wasn't the Astros, that's all I was worried about.
Right. Did you see any of the videos from the Braves World Series parade with the bus going 30 miles an hour, not slowing down for the fans? It was pretty funny.
Yeah, and then they had one of their pitchers almost get arrested.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because they thought that he was just a fan walking in the parade. I think it's Tyler Matzik or something like that.
Yeah, he had a really great
he had a good
postseason.
series.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. I guess they're just not used to, winning too much. Because I mean, since like whenever the Falcons won a while ago, I guess that was probably like the last time an Atlanta team is, won something.
Falcons didn't win though.
Well, didn't they win like 5 or 6 years ago? Or no? No, they didn't. That's right.
Went. They played the Patriots, and
oh yeah, that's right.
They were up 28-3.
They should have won.
They definitely should have.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Well, at least they got some kind of championship eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, man, it was the 26 years. Aside from that's one of the higher droughts out there, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's not the highest, but it's up there.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a long time. I mean, I'm 24, so like I wasn't alive for them to win a World Series back then. So I guess this is my first time seeing that happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know what month they won it in '95. I'd guess probably around the same time as now, but I was probably like 4 months old, 5 months old.
Wow, that's crazy. So I guess that kind of covers the World Series stuff. And then we can move into our talking about the Rays a bit. I know we've talked about it a little bit before, but it was a good season. It was a little disappointing, like at the end. But if you told me at the beginning of the season that they would make it to the ALCS after losing like Glasnow, having all these guys on the shelf for such a long period of time. And I don't know, it was just, they overcame a lot to get to where they were. So I think, next season when they're closer to 100%, because no team is ever going to be at 100%, I think they'll have a really strong team, and it's probably going to be better than it was this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the fact that we had 100 wins, I think that kind of like distracts people that we had a ton of injuries, like a bunch of them, especially to our pitching staff. So you look at the Braves, and I think they had 88 wins in the regular season. So like people look at that, they're like, oh yeah, you could tell they hit all the bumps, they hit all this, but it's like Tampa continued to overcome and continued to win games that they shouldn't have won with people that were injured, and it feels like if we can come back even a third healthier than we were this year, I think that we could very well win it all.
Oh yeah, I think 100 wins is a pretty reasonable expectation for this next season. Like they've got the offense, they have so many young guys that are going to continue to get better, and they just need to stay healthy. That's it. I mean, that's a lot of teams are saying that, but if the Rays can stay just even a little bit healthier than this season, I think they can win another 100 games. So
yeah, I mean we're returning, if I'm not mistaken, all of our offensive players.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nelson Cruz is likely to leave. I mean, they could try to re-sign him. I'm not 100% sure, but most of the guys that are leaving are pitchers. I know we can kind of move into that now because that's a good segue there. But they lost Ryan Sheriff today on Saturday to the Phillies. Cody Reed, Oliver Drake, both becoming free agents. I know Cody Reed was kind of working his way back to the end of the season. He didn't really make it. Oliver Drake was on the shelf like the whole year, pretty much. We're also losing, who else here? Chris Mazza. He's going to be a minor league free agent. So, he made a pretty good case to be on a big league roster towards the end of the season here. So I hope he finds a good home. And then DJ Johnson, really great beard. Unfortunately, we were not going to probably see him in a Rays uniform anymore, but he was honestly impressive in his 5 innings. He's got a great curveball. So
that one hurt a little.
He's out as well.
I can't lie.
Yeah, I was really interested to see what he was going to end up doing with the team because, he's got some tools.
Yeah, that one surprised me because if I'm not mistaken, he was a mid-season pickup, wasn't he?
Yeah, the Rays went out and got him. I know they were, going for Luplow, but he was, he's not a bad pitcher. He's pretty good.
No,
so.
I liked, like you said, it was only 5 innings, but I liked what I saw from those 5 innings. Everything looked good if he wouldn't have hurt himself.
Right. And I know depth is important, but they're going to have to, let some quality players either walk or they're going to trade some quality players because they have a lot of guys they need to, reactivate off the 60-day IL and onto the 40-man roster. So it's gonna be a pretty crazy couple weeks here as they move into the offseason with, free agency deadline, stuff like that. Nelson Cruz, he's going to become a free agent this week. Michael Wacha, Colin McHugh, David Robertson. So those are guys that they could bring back. I'm not sure if they would bring back any of them. Maybe Michael Wacha I could see, but I think Colin he was going to go get paid. And David Robertson, he might go get paid. I mean, he wasn't pitching a year ago, but here he is now. So, he's definitely shown that he's got some left in the tank. Nelson Cruz is probably going to go somewhere else, I think. I'd like to keep him, but I think the effect that he had has been it's been good, and I think his time here is up.
Yeah, just imagine a whole year with him on our, mentoring Franco. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's probably left a really good impression on all the young guys, but if they keep him great, he'd definitely be platooning, but in the DH spot, probably with Austin Meadows, I would assume. But
yeah,
I don't know. I guess he's probably they might let him walk because they do have some minor league options they could bring up and maybe sign some other free agents, something like that. But in addition to all those guys, we have Chris Archer, Chaz Rowe, Tommy Hunter. They're all going to be free agents. So maybe they bring back Chris Archer. I don't know about Chaz Rowe. Maybe not. Tommy Hunter, I'd say it's pretty doubtful.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that I'm flipped with you. You say maybe Chris Archer. I think it's going to be Chaz Rowe over Chris Archer just because he really didn't do anything for us this year.
That's true. Yeah, I would have liked to see him, keep that spot in the bullpen because he's got such a cool slider. It's like a frisbee. So, but I mean, they do have other pitchers that they need to reinstate off the 60-day IL. So, Glasnow needs a spot on the roster. Yanni Chirinos needs a spot. Jalen Beeks, Colin Poche, Ryan Thompson, Jeffrey Springs. So, I'm glad I don't have to make all those decisions because those would be really hard calls. But I'm just interested to see where they go with a lot of these names.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, I think, this offseason because, like you said, you brought up people that I'm sure just a casual baseball fan forgot was even here, like Jalen Beeks. He was a big thing that we got from Boston. So, just names like that, if he can stay healthy, he could could pitch better than Chris Archer. Oh,
yeah, definitely. I agree. And, Beeks, Chirinos, I guess Poche is more of a one-inning guy, but they have so many guys that can give 2, 3, maybe 4 innings. So I think the bullpen's going to be even better next year because they're going to have so many options that are they could use them for an inning or they could use them for 3. And it's going to be a really cool look for this pitching staff because we're going to have, a couple traditional starters with Patino probably, Shane McClanahan, Shane Boz, and I guess that might be it for the traditional starters that are on the team. And then the rest are just going to be, bullpen, bulking, whatever. I guess Ryan Yarbrough, maybe he would be considered a traditional starter, but not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, that's a best I could even think of when you say traditional starter with Yarbrough. Just go, could be, I guess, not. Technically.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. But yeah, it's going to be a really long, not a long off season. It'll go by quickly, I'm sure, but it's just interesting because they have so many tough decisions to make and they're going to lose quality players. And that's going to be hard for me to come to terms with because I want to keep everybody. I want a 60-man roster, but
right.
There's not enough room for all that. So, Josh Fleming is another maybe starter, maybe not type of arm.
Oh yeah. If he can play like he played this season, half a season, then we'll be good.
Yeah. Oh, and Drew Rasmussen too. I think he's going to be a starter next year. I think he's going to get a third pitch. So, looking forward to that.
I hope so because I hyped him up all season once he became a starter.
Yeah, he was weirdly so effective, and I know it kind of his luck ran out against Boston in that final series, but he could do it. He just really needs to throw a curveball, change up something, and he'll be all right. So. I guess that kind of leads into our next thing, unless you had anything else you wanted to talk about for the Rays season here. But we could move into the off-season things we'd like to see.
Yeah, let's go for it. This is going to be more fun for the listeners too.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, because everybody's got their own opinion. So let us know when you see us tweet this, put it on Reddit, whatever. Let us know what you think as well. So, but yeah, we've got. The first one that's going to happen, I think maybe tomorrow, so on Sunday, is Mike Zunino. I think they're going to pick up his option. And that's what I want them to do. I want them to keep him for, at least one more year.
Yeah, so I have one of my notes is I have re-sign, or pick up the option, whatever they decide to do on Zunino. Just kind of let him build off last season. It was one of his, probably his best season in the majors. Why let that walk?
Yeah, no, he was incredible. I don't think he'll put up the same numbers, but if he can do like, if he can just be like an above average hitter, like the defense and the pitch framing is still going to be there. Like that doesn't really go away season to season as much as, offensive regression might. So I think he had like a 132 weighted runs created, like something like that this season. So if he can be like even like a 110 weighted runs created, I think he'd be worth like whatever $7 million I think his option is. So.
Yeah, I think it's $7 million. It's either 7 or 9. I think it's 7 though.
Right. No, that's a lot of money for the Rays, but I feel like that's a pretty good deal for a catcher that's going to put up like 2 to 3 wins above replacement and then, provide that leadership behind the plate. So it seems worth it. It seems worth the money to me.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I think that if we don't bring back Zunino, that's going to be one of the hardest people to replace on the team, in all honesty.
Oh, yeah. It's going to create, a lot more questions than answers. Because if they don't bring back Zunino, it's down to Francisco Mejia and who else? Because Blake Hunt isn't ready. Maybe Rene Patino's ready. Rene Pinto, sorry.
Pinto, yeah.
So it's just, it's going to be tricky because he's like the only one that they could promote internally to the major league roster like right away. So I just think they'll keep Zunino and we'll have it for like another year. And then Blake Hunt might be ready, when 2023 comes around.
Yeah, I'm thinking for him, it'll probably be 23 or 24 is when we see him. That's my guess. Like when we see him more regularly.
Yeah, I mean, he's still young, so he's got time. But I'm kind of excited for Francisco Mejia to get a little bit more of the playing time because I know Zunino kind of dominated it. But I mean, he had a fantastic season, so he should dominate the playing time. But I think Mejia is going to have a bigger role because we can't expect Zunino to put up the same numbers he did this year. I'd like for it to happen, but I don't think it's sustainable because, the strikeouts are one thing, it's going to happen, but he was making, some really great contact at a historic rate. And it's, if Shohei Ohtani's like the only guy who can do that usually, and or the only guy that's been doing it usually these past couple of years. So for Zunino to be in that same conversation is great, but I wouldn't bet, if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet too much money on it that he does it again.
No, yeah, you got to kind of look at the track record is the way that I look at it.
Right.
A lot of players can have a breakout year. If he comes back and does it again next season, then it's like, okay, he found his where he needs to be at. But if I had to guess, it would probably slip, and he'll probably be in between a great season like he had this season and then the season he had 2 seasons ago when people were talking about potentially not re-signing him.
Right. Yeah, I hope it's not down to that level, but I agree. I think it's going to be, somewhere between there. So that makes sense. I know we've got like a lot of infielders on the roster and outfielders too. So there are going to be some tough decisions to make because, the Rays are going to want to carry like 3-4 outfielders and then maybe like a utility type guy. So with the outfielders they've got, it's, Randy, I think he's sticking around. Josh Lowe is definitely going to be in the future here, or he's part of the future plans. Jordan Luplow, I could see him staying around as like a utility player. He's got, the outfield versatility and the infield. He can play first base. Austin Meadows could be a trade piece, I think. He doesn't really have a defensive home very solidly. He's okay. He's actually not okay in the outfield. He's pretty below average in the outfield, but his bats, it comes and goes. So they might keep him, but just based on what the Rays like to do with their roster flexibility, I don't really see like a subpar outfielder / DH who, wasn't super great. I know he had 100 RBIs, but like RBIs are kind of a team stat. So I'd like to see Austin Meadows stay, but I think he could be a trade piece. I think Brett Phillips stays for sure. And I think Kevin Kiermaier could be traded. This could be the offseason. Maybe Margot gets traded this offseason. So the outfield is going to be really interesting, I think.
Yeah, that was in my notes. That's what I have. I think Kiermaier gets traded this offseason.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised to see Margot get traded as well. But I don't think I'm going to have to disagree on the Meadows just because, especially if we don't re-sign Cruz.
Right.
Meadows is our go-to DH. He's been our DH for basically 2 seasons now. I just don't see him going anywhere unless the offer is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think if he could possibly like play an okay first base, that might be kind of interesting because, I mean, he seems like big enough. He's left-handed, so that helps. But I think he could play first base, at an okay rate. But then that would mean, Yandy's probably going to stay because he would be like the right-handed first base, third base option. But that means Ji-Man Choi might not be around if, Meadows moves to first. So it's going to be a lot of interesting workout sessions, I'm sure, with some of these players, trying to possibly learn new positions, make their case to stay on a roster or get traded if they'd like to. I don't know, how much those conversations happen internally, but I'd like to be a fly on the wall for that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see because, like you said, there's a lot of stuff that's going to have to happen. We have so many good players and so many people that we all know and love on the team that it's like, oh, something's going to happen and it's not going to be pleasant for all of us. No.
I mean, and they just have to make room for like Vidal Brujan. I think they'd like to keep Taylor Walls around. Probably he's a pretty fantastic defender. Wander Franco, I don't really have to justify that. He's going to be here forever, hopefully.
I mean, he's
Mike
okay.
Brasso, he's all right. Mike Brasso, I think, might be someone that could possibly maybe get moved in the offseason because, they have Luplow, who, is a lefty killer first base and outfield type. So, I mean, I love Mike Brasso. I love what he's done for the team. That home run off Aroldis Chapman was cool, but it's more of like a what have you done for me lately type situation. So I wouldn't be upset if he left.
Yeah, so that's one of the other notes I have is that Michael Brasso's gone. And I don't mean that in, like you said, a mean way towards him or...
No, of course
not. Not that I dislike him, but you said it, you nailed it on the head, What have you done for me lately? He was basically irrelevant this season.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it sucks.
Yeah, and it's sad to see, but at the same time, it just kind of leads more into kind of what we were talking about before, where we have so many just solid players that people like Brasso, who comes in and has a great season, someone is probably going to be better than him and get more playing time than him. And I feel bad for them, for the guys that happens to, because it's like, I don't want to see you go, but I also want to see you get playing time on another team. So, maybe just ask for a trade or something.
No, that makes sense. I mean, he was doing pretty well in Durham if he wants to, stay on the team as a depth piece, but I don't see him cracking the major league roster unless there are a bunch of injuries. So, I mean, it's possible because, injuries are going to happen all the time, but, guys like Vidal Brujan, he's going to need a roster spot. Xavier Edwards, he could be up as early as this season. We already mentioned Josh Lowe. We might see, what's his name? Curtis Mead. He's been climbing up the prospect rankings like crazy this past season. He's someone that can play third base. He plays second. Just Austin Shenton, too, the guy that they got from Seattle along with Chargois and
Shenton could be a surprise piece, in my opinion.
He's pretty good. He's an awesome left-handed bat. He's probably one of the most refined hitters in the Rays system. He can just flat out hit. So if he can just continue to stay patient and hit the ball hard, not just hitting singles, and if he could figure out some kind of defensive home, which looks to be third base, but maybe he could play first as well. I don't really know. They just have a lot of interesting options that they're going to want to take a look at.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting spring training for us. I'm going to call that now. I think a lot of stuff's going to happen in spring training for us.
Yeah. And I also just remembered another name, Brendan Mckay. He was, one of the top prospects in the system, but injuries kind of derailed him. But he's still a great pitcher. The bat's a little bit behind. The bat is maybe a AAA level bat, but his arm is, major league ready when he's healthy. So
if I'm not,
he can play first.
If I'm not mistaken, they also just gave us we just got a fourth year rookie option on him.
Okay, that's awesome.
I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me quite yet, but I'm pretty sure that I read up on that.
Okay, that's awesome. That sounds good. I want to see what he can do because he was I was kind of hoping he'd end up like Shohei Ohtani, except Brendan McKay is a great fielder too. He does everything. I know Shohei Ohtani, he played a little bit of right field for like a couple innings, but he's, nothing significant. But Brendan Mckay was like the best hitter, best pitcher, one of the best fielders when he was, at Louisville. So I'd like to see him get healthy, stay healthy, and give himself a chance.
It would be nice for sure.
Yeah, just, he doesn't have to be a starter either. He could be like, a 3 innings guy, go out there, pitch 3 innings, get a couple at bats, play some first base, whatever. Just the versatility is going to be great because this team keeps building more towards that. And they don't just have like, guys that can play multiple positions, but they have guys that can play multiple positions really well. And they have guys that can pitch in different situations really well too. It's not just like, oh yeah, this guy can come in and pitch an inning. Like he can come in and pitch an inning and strike out the side, like whoever's getting put in the game. So I'm excited for this season.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of like you said, Mckay could have a chance to come in, and I think that the role you said as a 3-inning pitcher could be a perfect situation, and being able to go out and play a position in the field instead of just being taken off, I think could be a nice little jumpstart for him.
Yeah, I agree. And his stuff would play up in like shorter outings too. He could throw harder. He'd have sharper breaking stuff. So I think I know they're going to figure it out because they're the Rays. That's what they do. They put guys in positions to succeed. But I'm excited to see all these internal options. But do you have any free agents that you'd like to see the Rays possibly target?
Noah Syndergaard, Nolan Arenado. No. So realistically, I had one big name, and I'm putting that in air quotes because he's not like a huge name, but we were talking about getting Craig Kimbrell at the trade deadline, except that's not going to happen because as I wrote my notes, I got on ESPN afterwards, the White Sox picked up his option. So
right.
We're not going to be able to sign him, but I do have another little Michael Wacha-esque signing in Matt Harvey.
I would like that. Absolutely.
With Glasnow likely missing 2022 or at least most of 2022, we need another starter. And I think that I know Matt Harvey's kind of had his struggles with Baltimore, but it's Baltimore.
Right.
So in all honesty, I could see him being very good in our system. And in my notes, I put he can be our next little rebuild project where he comes in for a year, does really good, and gets paid somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, if I was him, I would take a deal if the Rays offered it. Like, I'd like to see Kyle Snyder get his hands on him. He's got some good tools, like, watching him pitch for Baltimore, but the results just weren't there last season. I mean, he was all right, but, nothing spectacular or good, really. He was just pretty average. So, but yeah, I agree. I'd like to see him get into the team. I think that would be pretty cool. And he would be affordable, too.
Yeah, that was the key to it for me, was that it was a very not flashy signing. Like, the name is pretty nice, but the money-wise, it's not very flashy.
No, not at all.
That's why I was kind of pushing for that. Obviously, there's big names I would love to have on the team. Love to have.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
It's not a Tampa thing. So for me, it's hard to like go out and look at free agents. I'm like, yeah, I want this guy, and this guy. Because odds are those guys are probably $10 million out of our budget.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And everybody's going to overpay, too.
Exactly, especially this season. But another free agent, I didn't realize he was a free agent until earlier, so he's not in my notes. But would not mind having the reigning World Series MVP as our DH.
Yeah, I don't think that would be terrible. I'm not sure how many bats the Rays might go after, just because I feel like it's a bit crowded. But the DH spot is kind of open, honestly. So if they have someone that can DH and maybe play like, a position, either third, first, a corner outfield, something like that, that might be nice. But if they go after some kind of DH type bat, I think that might be cool. Someone with like postseason experience might be helpful, might be nice. Yeah,
and I was just thinking about like literally on the car ride home to come record this. I was like, you know what? That wouldn't be a bad little, Jorge Soler. I don't think he's going to be super expensive. I mean, he might be more expensive now with winning World Series MVP, but I could see him fitting in nicely if we don't
Yeah,
re-sign Cruz.
Yeah, that's true. I could see him being like a Mike Zunino type of offensive hitter where he's going to add his value because of his, power. And it seems like with guys like that, they just need, the right, not the right hitting coach, but just they need something to click for them. And it kind of clicked for him in the postseason. Like he came alive a little bit, and he was a pretty good acquisition. He did win, that MVP. So he's got that going for him. But I think a full season in the Rays system where he's going to get at bats, he's going to platoon, he's going to be pinch hit for, he's going to pinch hit himself. I think that might be pretty nice. He's got a lot of power, so much power.
Yeah, and he's only 29, I think, 28, 29, so we could get him for, we sign him for 1 year, and then that could be kind of our little thing for him. We'll sign you 1 year. By the time you leave here, you'll be worth double,
Yeah.
Something
I
like that he could come in and perform and help us out, and then it's kind of like, oh, you help us, we'll help you,
Right. No, that makes sense. Or even if they just sign him and with the intent of like maybe trading him mid-season. I know you don't want to like trade away players if you're in a postseason race, and the Rays are likely going to be in that next season. But if they sign him and then maybe trade him away to open up playing time as like more young guys keep coming up, I don't really know. I think he would add value to the team though, so I'd like to see them take a shot at him. So I agree. Matt Harvey would be awesome too. Like him, Jorge Soler would be great. One guy that I really want to see is Andrew Heaney. I know he had a terrible, can't understate how bad he was in New York, but it was mostly just like every fly ball ended up being a home run for some reason. And in the Yankee Stadium, that's just going to happen there because they play in like a little league park. But it did happen a bit in Los Angeles too, which is a little concerning because it's a bit more of a pitcher's ballpark. But even then, their park factors, I think, are in like the top 10 for home runs in the league. So like going to the Trop, obviously like he's not going to be like a Cy Young pitcher, but I think that would help him out. And he would still be an okay pitcher on the road, but I'd like to see them take a chance at Andrew Heaney because he's a lefty that can, he can touch 95. He can give you 3, 4, maybe 5 innings each outing. So he could be like, a guy that goes a couple times a week pitching, in 3 inning stints. So I think I would like to see him on the team.
Yeah, that I didn't pay. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't pay much attention to Heaney.
You didn't miss much,
I know who
honestly.
he is. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I know who he is, and it wouldn't hurt for us to have another left-handed starter. In all seriousness, though, like
yeah,
we have a few of them already, obviously, but that's another one of those things where Kyle Snyder gets out there, and he could very well be a Cy Young pitcher for us,
Yeah, that's true. I could see him in like a Colin McHugh type role and, pitching really well a couple innings every couple days. But whatever they end up doing, I know will probably be the right move because they rarely make, poor decisions with their signings. The only one I can think of is Pat Burrell. That's like the only free agent signing that I think, the offseason free agent signing that I think was just terrible. And that wasn't even, I mean, it was pretty bad, but like it didn't matter that much because they probably weren't going to win the World Series that year anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, we could use the Rich Hill situation this season as a perfect, it's kind of jumping back, but like you said with Soler, or with, even if we get Heaney and he's not working out, we could just trade him like we did Rich Hill. I mean, Rich Hill was working out. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he wasn't working out.
Yeah.
He was our best pitcher at the time. But, sometimes things happen and you get traded, but we still gave, I'd still like to give him that chance because you're right. I think that he deserves to play in a better park.
Yeah, just a better park, a better environment. Because like going to New York and you give up a home run, like you're basically like everybody's calling for your head at that point. So I feel like it just kind of spiraled for him. So it might be nice for him to reset, come to St. Pete, go to the beach, whatever, get on the team. And Kyle Snyder, he's pretty magic. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, one of the more sought after coaches. I want him to be in Tampa forever, but I think he's going to be, wanted by a lot of teams pretty soon.
Yeah, I could see him being the next Rays personnel that leaves to be a manager.
Yeah, it would make sense. I mean, Rocco Baldelli, Charlie Montoyo, sorry. Even a while ago, it was Dave Martinez, the former bench coach, like he's with the Nationals. Gabe Kapler wasn't a Rays coach, but he was a Rays player for a little bit. And he's over in, he's with the Giants. So I didn't realize that till the other day. Like he had a pretty great season as a manager.
Yeah, I think he'll probably win Manager of the Year.
Oh yeah, that's true. I think he'll probably get it over there in the National League for sure.
And then you got Madden too. Madden's still out there doing something.
Yeah, he's still kicking. I like his approach to like managing people. It seems like when he was managing, he was like at the forefront of analytics. Now it seems like everybody's doing it. So it might have like, he might have lost his edge a little bit, but he's still like a really cool, like, leader of people. So I don't want the Angels to be successful because that means the Rays would be like slightly less successful. But it's cool to see that he's still, doing stuff out there.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I mean, like you said, I don't want him to do better than the Rays. But, it's kind of like I'm trying to think the best way to describe it. If you have a best friend and you both play on two separate teams, you still want him to do good, just not as good as you. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's kind of how I feel with like old Rays players and old Rays coaches. I want to see them come out and do good, but just don't do better than us. That's all I ask.
Right. That makes sense. So any other off-season wish list type things you'd like to see happen? Like what a good off-season would look like for the Rays?
So I think just one or two more. Obviously I've said it. I would love to re-sign Nelson Cruz. Realistically, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the thing I was looking at says that his estimated value is like $14 million. Even at 42 years old, I don't understand how, but I think that he's going to be out of our price range. So aside from that, like a more realistic thing, extend Glasnow and Franco. Yeah. Mainly because I think Glasnow right now is going to be the cheapest that we're ever going to be able to get him for with all the injuries. And then
that makes sense.
Franco for the same situation. Every single day that he doesn't get an extension, he's just going to be more and more expensive.
Yeah, they gotta lock him up quick, and they can afford it. They've got some money. They're going to clear up a little bit of space, on the payroll as they do their off-season moves and protect guys from the Rule 5 draft. So no, I agree. I think re-signing or extending, Glasnow and Franco would be awesome.
But yeah, I mean that's all that I got as far as for my like A+. Oh, and we need to just get a new stadium, get that lined up, and now that way we don't listen to this terrible sister city idea anymore.
Yeah, it's so bad. I know they're like pushing it as like a negotiation thing right now, but like just put up a stadium in Tampa. Try that out. Please, if Brian Auld, if you're listening, Stern Stu, if you're listening, please just try it. You don't have to love it.
Just do it.
Yeah, even if you're not listening, just do it, please.
I just really don't want to see us go to Canada.
No, I wouldn't like that because like I like going to the games, and I'm not gonna. I mean, I would like to maybe go to Canada. That might be fun, but I probably would not be able to go to as many games if the Rays were not in Florida. So. There's my reasoning.
Solid reasoning. And I also feel like, well, what are we going to do in Canada? Like, I feel like Canadians are so nice. There's not going to be any trash talking. Like, there's no fun in that. I want to see a little bit of trash talking. I mean, we're a Florida team. That's basically what Florida is known for, is just crazy trash talking and just crazy people in general. Right. We don't want to go to Canada.
Yeah, no, that's true. And like it's already been, I mean, I know times are different now, but Montreal couldn't support the Expos, so they left. So what why can they suddenly, I mean, I guess maybe they probably could now, populations, change, whatever, but would they still be the Rays if they were in Canada? Like, would they be like the Montreal/Tampa Rays?
Yeah, like, do we get half a name change? For half the season, we're the Tampa Bay Rays. For half the season, we're the Montreal, whatever they want to be.
I don't know. I think just even that stuff sounds like too much work to think of, and they should just keep them in Tampa.
Yeah, we just keep them Tampa Bay Rays. We'll actually move them to Tampa, Ybor City, wherever they want to go. Call it a day. Then we don't have to worry about any more drama. Oh, that stresses me out just thinking about it.
yeah. I'm good on that front. I don't want to think about it too much.
But yeah, so no. Other than that, no. That's all my A+ offseason stuff. Mainly, a lot of it's just keeping our guys. With the addition of Matt Harvey and maybe Jorge Soler.
No, I like that. I had, similar thing. I think maybe add a DH, so Soler would kind of fit that profile. I honestly didn't have anybody else in mind. I was just thinking add a DH, someone that's going to platoon, won't be too expensive. But the main thing is I just wanted to get an arm, so preferably Andrew Heaney. I think Matt Harvey kind of fits that description as well. Maybe Alex Cobb. I think he is a free agent possibly.
Yes,
he might not be a bad option.
I saw his name in the free agent list, and I was thinking the same thing. It wouldn't be... we had a Rays reunion this offseason. Why not next offseason?
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that, and even Chris Archer maybe too. I wouldn't be against that. I know he wasn't great in his limited work last season, and his stuff he's not gonna really get much better. But I feel like the floor is pretty high for him. He's not gonna be terrible. He might not ever be super great again, but he's not gonna be too bad. So I feel like he's got a bit of a higher floor than Andrew Heaney, but I think Heaney's due for a bounce back, so I really want him on the roster. But Matt Harvey would be pretty cool too. So just add some kind of arm, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I get what you're saying too with Archer. We know that he's not going to be the Archer that we traded. That Archer's gone. But
yeah,
I feel like you're exactly right. His floor is much higher than Andrew Heaney's floor is. But Andrew Heaney's ceiling is also much higher than Chris Archer's ceiling is at this point in his career.
No, that makes sense. I agree. But, hopefully they'll start, making moves soon so we can, watch it all unfold. But I know a lot of the stuff right now is going to be 40-man roster crunch, get guys off the roster, protect guys from the Rule 5 draft, and maybe, work on some contract extensions, negotiations, whatever. Internally. So I think free agent stuff might come a little bit later, but you honestly never know with this team. So we'll see.
Yeah, anything could happen. That's why I love being a Rays fan, because you never know.
Yeah, it's never ever. Boring. That's for sure.
Last year, did you really think, or before the trade deadline, did you ever think there was actually a chance of us having someone like Nelson Cruz?
No, never. Yeah. That's the biggest midseason. That's the biggest overall acquisition, I think, in franchise history. They went out and did it. And, they didn't win the World Series, but the impact he's had on, the younger guys on the team and even some of the older guys, it's priceless. You can't, measure what he's been able to do. So, I'm glad we had him, for a couple months. So yeah,
like you said, even a couple months, I'm happy with how it turned out. And you're right, we didn't win the World Series, but I think that information or that mentoring that he gave Franco and some of the younger and older guys is far and above better than a World Series trophy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because it could produce, hopefully, multiple World Series trophies in the future, but, we'll see. That would be nice.
Anything can happen at this point. I'm just ready for the ride.
Me too. So I guess if you don't have anything else, we can wrap it up here. So any final thoughts or anything?
No, just want to thank you guys for listening. Sorry I missed last week. I'll be better, I promise. Aside from that, just make sure you guys subscribe. Get on, iTunes, your Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, whatever you listen to. Get on, give us a like, give us a follow. We'd really appreciate it. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say too. Follow us on all your social medias. We're at RBLR Sports. Twitter. I believe we have Facebook. I'm not on Facebook too much. Instagram.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. I know YouTube. We got our YouTube channel. So, I think thank you all for listening, and go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.